wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money. It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
Up. Well, howdy. I am actually going to assume you probably couldn't hear me then. I was talking with my face not showing. So we're going to real quickly go back over that. Sorry, guys. Just once again, I am Steve. I'm here with Trade the Pool. It is Power Hour. Been a rough day so far for the Bulls, but we're seeing if we can find some traction here at a pretty key level. So I'm going to go back to the daily chart on the right. Just going to run through this real quick. So we came down off of this key moving average cluster, the 9 and the 21 up here at 685. That was a clear sell. Also, that 50-day was actually where we just tapped into before we sold off. So up here, big resistance. This is going to be the level that needs to clear for us to actually get bullish. What we're hoping for is a higher low between these two daily candles here. If we can get a bullish candle here into the close, maybe we can save some of this daily candle, form a higher low, and trade back up and test this level again in the next day or so. That being said, still not seeing buyers stepping in on the 1 minute chart. They are accumulating to some degree, but we can't assume that this will break bullish. It could be a bear flag for continuation down to a new low. So we're kind of in this game of chicken here between the bulls and bears, and it's going to be up to us to play detective here into the power hour and figure out which direction we're going to be headed. Hey, glad to hear, Joe. Braxton Dudley, howdy. Let's see. How long can you hold swings on your platform? Just bought a swing trading max account. Oh, welcome. Thank you so much. I think you will have a good time. So I am not in a swing one currently. Let me double check on the rules. Joe, if you happen to know that that rule, I think you can just hold them indefinitely. I've never had to close my swings on a swing account, but double check with Joe there. Okay, all right. Somebody just woke up. Somebody just tweeted, I bet you anything. I'm going to start looking for news. Let me know if you guys see anything, but that's a big bullish candle through this range. I got to assume we're probably going to hold now. I'm going to let my community know that that looks like a bottoming candle if it closes bullish. So give me just one moment. That is a very nice candle there. All right, yeah. So I think likely bottom if we hold this candle. We're going to see, I would bet you anything, some news probably came in there. Some tweet, something. Yeah, and Joe confirming no limit on the hold time for the swing. And that's what's just so great about those. I didn't want to promise that until I knew for sure. I knew I had never had to close one because of any time restriction. And that's because there isn't one. So a great way to hold your trades. It's really nice because the day trading often, traps are laid and you might not get the move that you're expecting. That's high probability in the future on a given day. But if you're able to swing that trade, you can hold through a little red or a little break even for that day and then get that real move. So we're having a 50% back test of this big candle here. This is where the rubber meets the road. We want to see if it is going to hold. See that 50% fib. So we're watching this pretty darn close. Just watching the indices right now. We're going to go to some other stocks. Don't worry. If there's anything you want me to check out, throw it on down in the chat. We will get to it, I promise. That being said, really important spot for the indices. So I want to see how we navigate this candle in particular, but also just this range. This looks like we're trying to break out. Bears are stepping in. And if they revert this, then just continuation down, like I mentioned. But if the candle does hold, which it's really testing here, really testing. Bulls have some work cut out for them. They're trying. So we're watching this battle, especially on the 5-minute close, to see which way we're going to break out of this range. If we go up, I would imagine that we'd like to get back to the 680 handle that I mentioned earlier. It's where we have caught multiple days in a row. It's where we caught this morning as well, briefly, before failing. But let's talk really briefly while we wait for this candle to play out. We'll keep it on the corner of our screen there. Bulls holding up decently in that golden ratio between those two yellow lines of that fib. So something to consider. Bulls might be carving this out. Bears might have just fumbled when they couldn't push it down and engulf that candle. So now bulls want to break this candle higher. Pretty clear there. And that will also be the top of this range. See, that's where the bears stepped in the top of this range. So far it is being quote unquote contained. Now we're just seeing if the bulls can navigate through this downward momentum, but it does mean that bulls are trying here, and that's worth noting. That big high volume, definitely worth noting. So like I said, through here, then we can probably retest this 680. That being said, we are just head bonking on this 200 minutes so far, so we can't be too sure to call victory yet or call an end to the pain there. It's definitely worth watching. We're gonna take a look at the morning trade so far, or just while we wait for this to progress here. There were two. So I took the morning counter trend scalp long just because I couldn't deny the strength of that opening candle. So I just said, hey, I'll tag in right here with a stop under that open, just thinking that we would get a momentum push. And I was looking for this little swing high to clear. And if we got that, then I was going to be looking for somewhere in this zone. See pre-market, there were multiple highs here. So 684 was my first target. So I just took the scalp just from right here to right here for 30%. Good enough for me. Price came down, it surged up. I felt a little silly because we did get to this zone, but we couldn't break above it. And that's when I was letting people know, hey, this 684, that's where a lot of the volume was traded today. This is going to be our pivot. If we lose this, it was like 684 to 683.50, somewhere right around there. If we lose this pivot, it's going to get ugly. Whenever you have a failed breakout like that, it's a little bit sketchy, and you got to start considering if they were just gathering momentum for the push down. All right, bulls did get it done. Beautiful look there. Beautiful look there. So I want to talk about this. Why did we draw these fibs here? And why did we mention on this pullback candle that, wow, okay, bulls actually did a good job? It's because in this little yellow zone, these two golden levels make a golden pocket, and this represents the optimal level for bulls to try to get long if a range forms and then it retraces into that 60% to 78% zone. So we got that move. Bulls did step in, confirming this first candle. Now the push up continues here, and we are in an uptrend on the 1 minute here, on the 1 minute. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're still trading under VWAP, and it's been definitely a trend down day. So these counter trend rallies can be quite aggressive, and it can make you think that the bottom forever is in, and you got to buy now, and then they wipe you out too, and you get stopped out on your new buys. So don't let that be you. Buy on the downtrends here as we start to see the sellers buy on the pushes down as the buyers start to come in, and we start to see accumulation. You want to accumulate with those big buyers on quality names. So SPY, just intraday, a little bit of a failed breakdown setup where we formed this range and then swept it out. Now we're sweeping the top of the range. Could it do a failed breakdown again? It could, but this is really good volume coming in at power hour. So I think what's happening is SPY, the bulls are trying to save this daily candle, and they are going to, I believe. I believe we're going to close above the 680 to save this at this point, just because this is such an explosive move. Wish I had caught this trade, to be honest, but that's all right. At least we were watching. I don't know what, I still don't know what was said here. Still don't know what was said. Hey, Imperator, good to see you in here, man. You shorted twice today. GXAI. Let's take a look at that. Excuse me. All right, going to keep watching SPY here. Absolutely strong, but start to pull up some other things. Even my XLV is starting to bounce just a tiny bit. Man, that's rough. If you guys are looking for a trade to get into now, I really like Ethereum A for a swing trade, and you can scalp it here too. So I think it's breaking through this downtrend line as well as this moving average cluster. This is an inverted head and shoulders on the 1 minute, and on the daily, this pullback is into, or it's under the 9 moving average, so it's in that ribbon between the 9 and the 21, which is starting to curl on up and provide support. So it could dip a little bit deeper. That's why I'm saying a swing trade. I started to buy a position a little bit earlier in the week. It went green. It came down again today. I added a little bit more. I think I'm going to add a little bit more into close here as well. I like Ethereum A. Even if it comes down, I would add even more. So XLV very bottomed out as well. I think this one it just about can't get any worse. This an absolute flush to the bottom of a very strong range. So if it is a fake breakout or fake breakdown, this is the time where bulls can step in. I know our resident robot, the great trader Michael Nauss, CMT. He's a systems trader and he is incredibly bullish on UNH. He says enough's enough, too much of a sell, and I'm inclined to agree. And it's not just because I have a dead XLV March call. We don't talk about that. Meanwhile, we have the nice curl up on Qs leading the way. SPY looking pretty good, and it's gravitating up to that point of control. Let me get to that chart that we were talking about. GXAI, I believe. GXAI. Yeah, let's look at that. Whoa. All right. Big mover here from pre-market right at 10 minutes after the bell. Absolute surge here from $1.25 all the way up to 208 initially, finishing up at 250 before sellers came in. So we have a pretty clearly defined levels here. We're going to zoom on in real quick. Take a look at Imperator's trade here. All right, let me read what you're saying. I like this. So you're saying you're learning to split the trade up. Before you were entering with a $25 risk, now you're going in with a $5 risk, then adding 10 and another 10. So by splitting this up like this, you're giving yourself multiple chances to be right, and you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Because very often the larger setup can go in the direction that you're expecting, but just the way that it plays out, they might run stops one time more than you were ready for. You might be positioned just too big and get stopped out of a trade that ends up doing well. If you just size small, and then you recognize that maybe there are 2 levels, 1 or 2 levels below where it could go, but still hold your idea. Those are areas where you can try to size into a play. Ideally, I like to size in and then add into strength. So I get a little nervous adding into weakness unless it's a really, like I said, a level that I already was watching below and saying, hey, I think it catches here. I want to try. It might come down here though. Then you can average in, but you can't just say, hey, I'm pretty sure this is the spot. And then it goes down. You go, all right, now this is the spot. And then you buy more. Then it goes down. You go, okay, this has got to be the spot. That's how you can get caught in a real rough trade. So GXAI here. Let's see. First operation went to 229 with a stop of 255 and a profit of 2. All right. So it sounds like you are starting to get the process down, my friend. I like it. I love that you're working on sizing into trades like this. And that makes me feel good about the only real thing that can get you caught up here. I truly believe there's only one big obstacle in trading, and that's like your discipline, specifically in regards to risk management. So as long as you have a system and you're sticking to it, and you're dedicated to basically keeping track of the system and seeing if it's working for you and changing it if it's not, that's really all it's going to come down to. And I know everybody says 95% of traders fail. You're right, they do. I think probably 90 to 95% of people don't want to do that work. But you know what? I believe a lot of you guys are in that 5%. So just stick with it. I do think it's something anybody can do. Almost anybody can do if you have the right type of framework for learning it. So speaking of good frameworks here, SPY's got good bones on it here on this push up. A nice aggressive, we're going to go back to the full screen here. A nice aggressive push up, flag, push up, flag. And now these moving averages, they are starting to get into coast mode. So we're going to be surfing up these moving averages. You can tell it's strong because it's surfing up an invisible moving average. It's a 5-minute moving average that's holding it for right now. Usually I don't even have that on my screen. I only have this blue 9. But I can just tell this is a very strong move so far. So if the first move down to the 9, you guys can tag in if you want, and your stop would be basically under a previous large candle, which implies that, okay, a buyer stepped in here, pushed us up for that third big green candle that I'm mousing over. So the idea is you can get long on confluence with a moving average, like right there, for example. And the idea is it's dipping within this big candle, but it should hold this big candle. The other way you could look at it is say, all right, if you think that it is going to come down, if this is too much too fast, you could expect perhaps a dip into, at the very worst, this 1 minute fair value gap in that rectangle. So that would be a little bit deep, and it'd be kind of like an undercut of this 21. So it'd be a little bit aggressive, a little bit scary, but the idea really is that this low, this kind of continuation push after the first one, the one that made the new high, and then saw follow through from there, that should definitely hold. If we lose that, this bull move needs to rebase, I would say. So far, still respecting that 9 minute moving average like we're talking about. The first true touch there bounced us up nicely. So we're going to see where this 1 minute candle closes, and then we're going to watch the 5 minute candle close in a few minutes to give us an idea about whether this flag is going to keep on pushing into the close. I think we're probably reaching for VWAP. I'm going to double check my other chart and find that. Un momento. Okay, I'll pull up this chart real quick for y'all. So, whoops. There we go. So, overnight, I mentioned 2 potential paths here. Green path, obviously bullish, was expecting a push up to test this pre-market high. I'm sorry, a push down into the hourly trigger, and then a move up to test the pivot, coil at the pivot, and push on up to the higher time frame zone target up there. We got the other one that I was hoping we wouldn't. So basically what I was expecting if we did get a bearish path is that we would come back down, we were to reject the daily moving averages, which were right around, yesterday they were this blue band. So the blue band would be moved down just a little bit so you can see where they tagged into that kind of zone. So the idea here is this staggered line is our hourly trigger. If we lose this, we are steadily in a downtrend because yesterday we tried to break through the daily and we rejected. Since we couldn't coil above the daily like this green path, we have to come back down and reset. All hope is not lost, though. We are just coming back into the previous bull zone, the previous level where we broke out from. Let's draw the top of this V. That looks pretty good. And you can see that's right where it tags into. Probably more realistically, we do the top wick here. And that gives us that nice big zone, and they carved into it, found a lot of volume traded here, and now they have room to push up. So where are we pushing up to? The low volume node in this the volume profile on the day. So the volume profile, in case anybody isn't familiar with this tool, really good one to have on your chart. This is this blob, this green and black blob here. And what this is telling me is just like the volume on the bottom is telling me at which time a different amount of volume has been traded. This is telling me at what price a different amount of volume has been traded. So you can see this is the point of control. We fought for it as volume built up, and then buyers won that battle. So now we're going to go back to this battleground here, this big node. Now we surge up through the low volume because that's easy. And since we still have some strength up here, we're going to test up here likely and basically revisit this battle and see if these bears are still strong enough to hold. That's how we kind of got to look at these level action here. And we are going to basically see where most of the volume can trade. If in the next 40 minutes we can see a lot of volume traded up above here, we could potentially see a little bit more of a bullish pattern here. But until we do, we got to assume that price probably is going to not be able to get through this middle area and will want to come back down to test this lower node and probably or potentially go lower. So we got to keep watching. You know, this isn't foolproof. For example, this was a really bullish daily volume profile here, a nice P shape. But what did we do? Well, we tried to break out above and we just simply couldn't. And there was a big seller there. So maybe we get a big buyer here off this higher low, just like we got a big seller here off this lower high. Kind of what I'm looking at with SPY going forward. Meanwhile, while it was yapping, it came up and tagged our zone there. Bada bing, bada boom. So like I said, off this 9-minute moving average, this is your scalp level that you can keep playing off of as long as this holds. But if a candle closes below here, and then any follow through candle gets, or any candle after that gets any follow through. So if a candle wicks down below your level, the 1 minute, and comes back up and closes just underneath it, you can hold that until the next minute candle prints, unless the next minute candle loses that low of the previous one, because that implies that that short-term algorithm has flipped off. And if you are doing this hyper scalping like we're talking about, I know a lot of you guys like to get active. If you're doing this kind of hyper scalping like we're just describing right here off this 9-minute moving average, you got to be able to respect the rules too, because see, the algorithm works. So if you're trading off the algorithm, you got to trust the algorithm when it says that it's turning itself off too. Alrighty. Yeah, volume profile on all frames is great, Joe. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. And we're going to get back to that, Joe, because we got Nomi Sunrider in the chat, and I think they have something to say. Very nice to see you in here. What's your humble brag? Called Micron at 65 long. Okay. All right. So you've been sitting on this brag for a while. I think we got to give you your props. We got to bring up the daily chart for that. Micron, one of the best performing stocks year to date. Absolutely insane. Calling this from 965, did you say? Wowee. All right. I got to go back. We got to go back to a monthly chart for this, guys. That's how far we have to reach back. Meanwhile, SPY still very constructive. And again, you remember the rules, that 9-minute moving average holding like a charm. So if you took that trade when I think I mentioned it down here and we were waiting for it to catch there. So that's 78.50 up to 79.50. That's $1 scalp on SPY. That's 20% on calls or so. Not too shabby. If you trade a bunch of size on some triple leverage ETFs like I like to, some UPRO, some TQQQ, that's $100 or so right there. Bada bing, bada boom. So here, the monthly's looking pretty decent on MU, right? Just a larger pennant. I think under 300 or under 400 will be considered a buy zone going forward, but we got to keep watching for that rising support. So calling this out at 65, what an absolute banger. That wasn't even in this flag formation. That was literally like way the heck down here a couple years ago. So congratulations, sir. Or miss. Well-researched, macro reasons, best call you ever made. And that's the thing, guys. You only need a few of these in your career to make a bundle, because I guarantee you, if you held even a quarter of this move, you did amazingly during that period. So congratulations there. Good stuff, my friend. While we are giving flowers, SPY is ripping. We're getting up into that 680 level that I want to see tested. We will see how we react. MU forming a nice high or low from yesterday's price action so far. Still too early to say till it sweeps this high middle section from yesterday. But if it can, then probably off to the races again. So keep an eye on that 400 to 405 area. Meanwhile, SPY, the bears have tired themselves out, guys. And that's good. That's good. We get a push up here. Can't get too ecstatic, because you never know how hard these bear market rallies can be if we are truly in a downtrend. But as of now, we're in the bottom of the range. We found buyers. There are reasons to be bullish. At the very least, until those 680 sellers come in. So let's see how it goes there. Nice little $1.50 scalp so far, and I think there is room here. So if you guys are long here, first area of interest, like I said, that 680, I do think there could be a little bit more room up. So let's go back to that hourly and find our levels. Oh, I said I'd pull VWAP for you too. Okay, the VWAP was what we just reached up to. Wow, it came down fast. So guys, when VWAP came down, or when it comes down that fast, that implies that a lot of volume was trading down here and yanking that down. So there was, significant volume trading down here that we're pushing up off strongly. Now this is an important level into the VWAP here. And this so often happens, guys, where a key level will line up with VWAP right when it's being tested. I don't necessarily know why it is, but it happens. So watch for that. Hey, Adrian. Posted an IREN chart in Discord, probably primed for a swing. I'll definitely take a look at it. I can right now, actually. Okay. Meanwhile, watching SPY screaming, just smashing those shorts, guys. Love to see it. And that's what we were saying. we could get a squeeze as soon as the bears step out. So we are through the VWAP. We want to see if this candle holds and starts consolidating above it. Very likely, if you're in 0DTs, that's probably the candle to sell, at least some of those, because, hey, big surge through key level, very likely needs to cool off, just like we're seeing, and retest there a little bit. That being said, we could go higher. Let's see if it's constructive price action. Right now, we are extended from that 9 minutes. So you can't buy up here. Can't buy up here, that's for sure. But real quick, look at the chances it gave. It gave 2 really clean chances to get in right there. And that's after the big breakout where everybody is looking at this going. It's bullish, right? So you don't have to be a fortune teller, guys. You don't have to predict the move. You just have to respect the rules and follow them. Find your spot and be diligent. So good stuff there. Let's look at that IREN chart. This is my Discord here. Some guys talking about jets, probably shorten it. All right, there's Chiripa's chart. We have market research channel here. Is that it? Oh, somebody else pinged me. There's the chart. So IREN, looking like we got some nice compression. I like that it ran the stops, came back, and now is posting a higher low and a bottom wick. I'm hoping that this is a failed breakout or breakdown, but it's just so hard for me to say until we reclaim these moving average ribbons. Adrian, I've been trading a little more like you recently, I think, just in terms of, seems like you are really big on these daily swing levels, these daily moving averages, reclaims and back tests, that kind of thing. A little bit of selling coming in as expected over key level. Like I said, if you're in those short dated contracts, when you get the big surge up, great time to sell. Great time to sell, or at least trim. If you have some time, you can hold, but really you can just sell and get back in if you need to. And the same thing with a trade the pool account with scalping. You can just get out for a really nice fill, like 80-50, that makes sense. And then you can wait for a chance to get back on this 9 for your little scalp. So IREN looking pretty constructive. I'm also seeing the downtrend line starting to form out here, this downward pennant, and we are essentially fighting for this point of control, which you got all drawn out. You know what you're doing on this red line here. So clearly that's the level that needs to flip. Clearly it's a level that's being fought over. So I think we just watch and wait. If we do get the close over this, I think it runs up into this low volume node. And you got that marked out. Yeah, that's your target. So yeah, we are 2 peas in a pod here, brother. I think we're seeing the same thing on this chart. It's just a matter of, do we get the trade? So these data center, what would you call them? The Bitcoin miner turned data centers. By the way, there's another entry off the 9 minute, still working like a charm so far. What was I saying? I'm distracting myself by the pretty lines. Let me retrace my steps here. Okie dokie. Yeah, saying IREN has kind of a big base and we are at the bottom. The risk reward is good. It's just a matter of, it can be a coin flip, So sometimes you got to put that risk on. Totally good. But we just got to wait and see. What I was going to say is these data center plays, these Bitcoin miner turned data center plays, they're just coiling and fake breaking out and fake breaking down. And so much of that inertia is going to be unleashed at some point. So I think he's right to be looking in this bucket. It can just be really volatile. And this is where really small sizing and just getting a tester position. And as it starts to work, reclaim those moving averages and build you a cushion. You can build into that position as well. Meanwhile, as I'm talking, SPY's fighting to lose this 9 minute algorithm. If it does, it just tests the 21. And as long as these two are holding, I consider it like really short term, like for scalping, I can hold. As long as the 50 and the 200, so this purple and the white are holding, these are all on the 1 minute charts. These are my more intraday trend, where not so much scalping, like hyper frequency, like in and out within 5 minutes, but more like for an intraday trade where maybe the market pulls back in the first half hour and I buy the dip into a key level and I look for not just a little push up, but an actual like engulfing candle or something. So on that kind of setup, that's where I really rely on these 250 simple moving averages. So that's another little bit of alpha. Use the simple moving averages for the higher time frame, or I'm sorry, the higher look back distance moving averages. So the 200 and the 50, that's going to be more stable. And the idea there is those time frames are more important for longer term setups where you don't want all of the wiggling of an effective moving average. You just prefer that clear cut signal of the simple moving average. In general, the people who trade off of these, they're going to be a lot longer term in their time horizons if you're trading off that. So on the flip side, for scalpers, we want to use every little last bit of information in our look back period. We want our moving average to be adapting as close as possible, with the new information. So in those cases, I find that these work better. And, just over the years, you watch it and you watch every ticker, respect these in a similar way, and you start giving them a little more value. Even though when I first started, I didn't believe in SMAs that much, but now I think it's a very key part of how trading kind of navigates a price range intraday. So again, like we said, 21 tap held, that's a nice entry as well. And we're trying to reclaim this 9 now. Real clean. All right, catching up on comments here. PDYN trying to test the $10 level. We can pull that up. Go to the grid here for a few minutes. PDYN, very nice, very high, tight flag here. Joe called it out. Let's see. Sorry, I got to squint in this tiny screen over here. Yeah, Joe is on this right as it was surging up here. Looks like a really tight flag on the 5-minute chart. Since then, I would expect this one to try to push up quite shortly. And you can get an explosive move here, guys, through this key $10 level. So this is a really good chart to pull up for the day traders here. We will pull it full screen and chart it real quick for y'all because it looks like it's pushing right about now. Going to hop into a 1-minute chart here. All right, so the resistance is these two wicks on the 1-minute candle, and you can see how price just magically gravitates right to there, and that's where it starts trading sideways. This looks very bullish to me. I see the only thing this is waiting for is the volume that's going to come in off this 9-minute moving average algorithm, which we talked about, that just fired about a minute ago. Gave you 3 entries there. Now it's a little bit extended, but you could play the range breakout and retest. So it could go up, down there. That's your entry, and surge up there. Alternatively, let's redraw this zone. Alternatively, it gives a kind of pop, trade sideways, then comes down a little bit, and then we get to buy into this horizontal level plus the moving average, which is going to go up like that. And that's how we build confluence. So we're getting the push on PDYN now. Congratulations if you are long. Where are our targets? We will find them in real time here for y'all. So we established a big range in the morning. Let's zoom on out just a little bit here. Wow. Hell of a chart. Hell of a chart. It does not look done to me. So fibs would go from the very high of the impulse move to the, we'll call it low of the session pre-market there. Close enough. So we can see negotiating this 62. Now we should reach up for the 78. Run the stops. Run the stops of any fibs. I'm sorry, run the stops of any shorts through the stop run fib. There we go. A little bit of a tongue twister for you. All right. If we can clear this previous swing high, like we mentioned, we're negotiating it right now. We're going to hop onto that 1 minute and see. But if we can, getting a move up to 1020 looks pretty doable. Getting a move up to 1098, I would expect, if not today, then by tomorrow. And this thing could just keep on trucking after that. That being said, we got to watch really closely into this $10 level. So there you go, guys. That was the entry we had just mentioned, where it pops above, comes back down, tags into that 9 moving average, and you get filled right above that. So that way, if you're wrong, you don't lose that much on the slippage, because when it falls, it's going to fall pretty aggressively, right? So little things like that can really help your edge overall, because you're going to get stopped out on a lot of trades. So using a system which minimizes the damage you take on each and every one of those paper cuts is really going to be the name of the game. So we'll see if this might fail, and then we'll show how we would stop out and manage that trade in real time. But for now, we're going to mark it and pretend our entry was right there. Where would my stop be? Well, I would want to wait for a test of this 21 to wick under and fail. So I would, in this kind of setup, I would monitor very closely. I wouldn't have a hard stop. I would have a manual stop on a 1 minute candle close under this 21 moving average. That's what I'm kind of thinking there. I can also start drawing horizontal levels. This is a nice little pivot here where we first surged up to and traded off of a few times. So we have confluence there. We're building a little confluence. Now we're going to look at the volume profile. The idea is we want to see a surge up off of this whole shelf. Let's zoom out to get this in the range too. So you can see this is the top of the big volume shelf. Through here, it can surge on up to the 1050, 10 or 11 and beyond. But we got to respect this level and see and watch how it plays. If you do want to play the breakout, this is how you should do it though. So again, we can also look for where the next big shelf is down there. And I think that's the actual support level. So this zone could even get violated briefly to see a dip into this low volume node. And that would look like a retrace of this. And I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't be able to hold through that for a day trade for sure, but it would kind of make sense. See how it lines up with the 50% fib? So those are the two kind of scenarios, I think. You either lose the short-term level, the short-term trend, come down here, can't hold. Let's redraw that. Like that. Or we could see maybe a smaller pullback like that, start to flag more constructively, and then go for the push. We'll see which we get. I am noting that we did get the high volume here on the range break, but we did not get the follow through. Not traditionally very bullish. So this might need to pull back, but man, it looked really good there. Just couldn't get the follow through. So personally, if I was in here, I would just be ticking red. And I would take a 1 cent stop and wait to reevaluate because this doesn't look as good as it did a few minutes ago. I would rather lose $5, a buck or two, than potentially take a full stop out, you know? That's just me personally. Then you could also be considering maybe a dip buy if this level respects or if in this pocket you find buyers. Just something to consider. But if I was trusting the hard stop, I would say 83.93, that's 10 cents. That's definitely doable. Yeah, so I think a candle close under this, but then you're just putting your stop right over this big chunk. So really, ideally, you put it under here, this 978. So I think the correct move would just be to size so that that is a reasonable stop. Got to think it out in real time. Meanwhile, I'm yapping. SPY is clapping at those bears. I don't know where I was going with that. SPY is definitely putting the bears on the back foot after just getting cooked all day long. So you like to see it. It shows that there's some hope here. Qs on the 5 minute down here, very constructive. And you know what? They are not too far off from reclaiming their open. You know what? Things are starting to look not so darn bearish after a really rough morning. I missed the short too. I was kicking myself. I scalped long. It's a nice long trade, 30%. And then I was typing like the 684 level. 684 level might fail. And the velocity in which it failed. Let me go back to that. Yeah, I was eyeing it around here, I think, saying, I don't know if this is going to hold. And then just puked like this. And I was like, oh, I missed it. And then I said down here, like, man, I really should have just went short right when I said I missed it. Because it was just kind of confirming. But it always feels like you miss it when a big candle happens like that, right? While you're looking short. So yeah, I missed this whole move. Would have came right down to 680. I would have sold right at 680. That would have been really nice. Then it came up to VWAP. You can't see it on here, but VWAP's roughly right at the top. And that would have been a nice short there too, right back to 680. So I kind of shook myself out. I had meetings and stuff today too, so I couldn't take all the intraday trades, but they are giving really nice intraday trading. So it's a great time to be on these prop accounts where you can keep being in and out of a trade. All right, now we're going to see if on SPY this algorithm's going to fail, this 9 minute and the 21 minute ribbon. So far, testing a failure on the 9, I would say bulls are on the back foot now. You could also say this is a little double top over our key 680 level. So we did a little bit of a bearish pattern into a big level. you could be looking to go short on a candle close under this 9, but it's safer to wait for this 21 to get lost and then to retest from the underside and find a spot in there or against the 9-minute. So I would not recommend a short, but I do think that this is probably the end of the push intraday. And that kind of makes sense. We got 10 minutes left till the mock candle. So maybe a little pullback and then bulls step in for the mock. That's what I'd like to see. All right, let me catch up on some trades here. Yeah, swings need a big stop loss right now. Know me saying, absolutely, it's tough right now. So I gotten stopped out of a few swings, and some I'm just sizing so small. Like my XLV, for example, it got nuked today, and it sucks. But you know what? I defined my risk with a call. So you know what? Might not come back, but I know I'm not going to lose anymore. So that's one way to define your risk. Another way is, of course, to just size smaller in your shares position, but give it that wider leash. And for me, it's been really good to wait for hourly closes, if not daily closes. Some candles just whip back so wildly intraday that it really feels bad to get stopped out on a hard stop when you know everything is just getting sold indiscriminately. Because then when the buyers step in, they buy the stock that you accurately, this looks bearish, by the way. I'd consider this like a 1-minute micro bear flag that's just breaking down right now. That being said, it's got this interim support here. So there will be a bounce off here, and we just need to see if the retest, where it's popping right back up now, if it rejects and pushes lower. To me, it looks like it will. But you know what? Them's the rules. I'm never smarter than my moving averages. So I just defer to them and the candle closes. All right. Sorry, still got to catch up on these comments. What's up, Mike? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, Death God. Market been too volatile for your weak heart? I feel that, dude. I feel that. I've had to size down so much. And like I'm not trading at all right now because I missed the scalp or the short. And I was a little salty. I was a little tilted. So I figured better not to make any mistakes, trade when I'm not feeling too sharp and optimal. I was in meetings for a few hours. Yeah, you know what? Better that than getting caught in the riptide. Also, what if I FOMO'd and tried to short thinking this was a bear flag because I was like, well, surely it's going to keep selling. Surely it's not going to reverse as soon as I enter, right? You start thinking like that when you're tilted. All right, so here we do see the algo firing still off of that 21 moving average. So this is like super mechanical. It's like you don't have to have that much subjectivity to it. It still is like an art in reading it for sure. But like I don't have to be some big brain genius here, I'm just looking at lines, seeing how they react. So right now there's a seller over this 9. Doesn't mean he's going to stay there, but we got to acknowledge him. You were acknowledged, seller. 680 seller. Death got on a little vacation with a little humble brag. NJ have stupid millionaire tax. All right. I know where I'm vacationing to. Actually, I don't think I'm going to vacation to New Jersey. Sorry, guys. Sorry if you're from New Jersey. Not on the top of my list. Fabcore up 4K. Beautiful, dude. Beautiful. On what? Let's hear about it. Definitely tell us. What else we got going on in the comments? Good to see all the boys in the house. Guys, we are working so hard. Meanwhile, Talk is selling VX futures as he slept. Well, how do you like that? All right, so it looks like this algo is starting to get really tested. Once, twice, it's okay if they bounce back, but I don't like a second test and then closing heavy into it like this. This looks like it's going to be bearish. Remember, we said that up here. Let's see if we were right. If I told you bearish right here, I'd be a gosh darn lie. You got to wait for a sign. To me, this was a sign. This is follow through, or this is follow through from the sign. It will get confirmation, at least on this short-term 1 minute time frame, on a close under here. Then we probably vent out right down to the 679 handle. There we'll have to see what it does. With the potential to retrace all the way back down here, that would be really rough for bulls. Just another really looking good. I mean, I was talking about how good this looked. So if it did retrace all the way, that'd be very disappointing. What we'd like to see is this hold right about here where I think VWAP is. We'll double check on that as well. So by the way, guys, in 6 minutes, mock trade is going to fire. Your trades will be closed, so make sure to think about how you're managing those. Meanwhile, SPY here. Oh, mamma mia, that's a pretty nice path that I gave y'all. Alrighty. Gosh, that's the worst when you draw a path and then you miss the trade in the morning and then you look at it at the end of the day like, I don't know what I expected. It happens. Happens to the best of us, and I am not the best of us, so don't beat yourself up if you do this too sometimes. The good part is, hey, the path worked, so I must have done something right. So now I just got to lock in, So 5-minute chart still holding constructively. We see this VWAP in this pale red line. you see this danger zone as well that we're trying to reclaim. So for me, a couple of key levels on the chart here. Keep an eye on that 679.80. We want to see, like I said, buyers stepping in pretty quick and sideways price action. Okay, so see, I was wrong on this one. I still think it's a little bit heavy and this could be a topping thing. But see how I gotta defer to the moving averages because this closed right on it with a bottom wick. So my rules say, hey, I gotta hold it and wait for the next candle close. It did sweep the bottom, so that would have been really tricky if I was watching every second of it. But the close was such an explosive hold. And now see, it's getting tricky here. It's getting tricky here. I think this is a higher low. I think this is a little bit of a topping pattern here, but we have to see how it plays out. This candle, I think, would be confirmation if we get a close under this. That's how I would play it. The other way you can look at this is say, hey, I'm trusting this higher low or this double top read as we get some velocity down, looking like we are pushing lower and confirming that, but we got to wait for the close. So the other way you can do this and get an even safer entry is you can pull a play out of the old ICT playbook and say, all right, double top, I've identified the double top into a higher time frame structure, whatever the heck I'm sure he has a big acronym for that. But you identify high time frame level, you identify a short time frame bearish pattern into that level that we just traded up into. Then you identify the first candle with a fair value gap. What's a fair value gap, you ask? Well, it's a 3 candle pattern from the very high here. Or basically, we're looking for a big expansion candle. We take the first candle before it and the low of that. We draw that out. Then we draw it down to the top of the third candle. So each candle around it. And when we draw that out, it provides a zone of weakness, of low volume that we can wick up into. You can put your limit order there to short, and very often it'll tag and hit it and then reject. And then your stop is just right above here. So that provides a very good risk reward. You're already at like 2 risk reward right here, and the target's like 3 or 4 away. You'll get those pretty often. You will get stopped out more often too. But hey, they feel really good when you hit them. And the idea is behind them is pretty cool because this opened up a little window where it wants to kind of retrace and just double check and say, hey, we didn't, it's like they were knocking door to door and they missed a house. So they had to double back and say, hey, just in case you didn't want to buy our whatever, right? So now we're going to see. I really like how strong this is and just not puking, that's what we kind of want to see, just acceptance into this 680 for bulls. And I'm feeling a little bit better now, but we do got to just watch because we are still under these moving averages and these bottom wicks could get reversed quickly if we can't find a buyer above. So the velocity on this, I call this a bid stick. And the bid's going to try to push up and close a candle that would basically reclaim key levels. They don't always make it though. So one thing you can watch is the 30 seconds mark in these candles. So in 8, 7, 6, we're going to watch and see if this buyer fades out halfway through the candle and bears decide to step in. Sure looks real though. But hey, we got to wait for that close. So far, 5 seconds into that flip, no notable sellers stepping in, maybe just a little bit of mixed tape, but those bulls still trying. And the idea here is now the bears only have 15 seconds to make some headway on a top wick. Otherwise, this is a clearly bullish stick, clearly reclaiming those moving averages. And so that's where there is like an art to it, right? Because technically this did close under the moving averages, but the candle wasn't overtly bearish. This follow through wasn't either. So no follow through that bottom candle that we were worried about. And then the big push. So now on a higher time frame, this is just a little bit of a flag, like on a 5-minute. And on the hourly, we're starting to really get excited here because we're starting to reclaim like 50% levels of the sell. And that implies that maybe we are done selling. All right, testing the 50 soon. So we're watching 680.55 as well. It's going to be a key level. Yeah, it talks about the volume profile. It's good stuff right there. All right, I'm trying to read this conversation in reverse while putting a crink in my neck on this little screen I'm using. So yeah, whatever you guys are talking about, I'm very interested. Definitely shoot me a DM or tell me what I can look up so I can figure that out. All right, I see talk mentioning. Boom. Oh, there we go. All right, guys. So remember, we got to watch the candle close. They just ran stops up here. That's into the 50% pullback. So this is bears stepping in saying, hey, this is a false flag. They're calling BS. I'm not sure. This looks pretty explosive, but again, we revert to the candle closes and also noting the candle flips, so the different time periods where important candle periods flip, those are really important levels to watch or times to watch. So just like you have horizontal time or horizontal price levels, you got to have your vertical time levels or time zones as well. Okay. Talk is buying Boyle. He's getting involved in the Widowmaker. He wants to party. We can talk about that in just a sec. I do want to watch this candle play out, though. I want to see where they're going to close it. All right, pretty big top wick. I don't like if a top wick is over 50% of that candle. I know I'm kind of stream of consciousness here, guys, but there are a lot of little examples of things that I do for scalping trading. And I've gotten a lot of people saying, hey, I want to learn more about scalping. You guys want the action fast, so I can give you what you want. So now we're forming a pivot there. Really short-term pivot. This is a level we watch. We would expect it to oscillate around here, but it looks like a failed breakout is starting to appear. But you know what? We got to wait for these moving averages to catch up. That's where it's really going to matter. That, and then again, we're going to pull up a 50 fib, and we're going to see how it interacts both at the equilibrium, but also remember that golden pocket where we have confluence with the moving averages. So now we keep an eye there. That was the 50% test. All right. I appreciate that, Nomi Sunrider. Awesome. Let's see. Is my trading view public? Justy Trades, JUSTYTRADEZ is my Thinkorswim or my. Oh, it's Thinkers. I thought you said trading view. Thinkorswim. Thinkorswim share link. Awesome. So I can just upload it directly. Yes. Perfect, my guy. I appreciate you. All right. SPY still looking real darn constructive here. Nice candle up when it tested the equilibrium. So, all right. Maybe I got a little too hasty. I'm just so ready for these bear market rallies to just fade, but we are over VWAP and I should respect that. But this top wick just made me a little bit antsy. Like I said, I'm not smarter than these moving averages. Moving averages held, so would I. Oh, I appreciate you, Joe, for posting those links there. Yeah, guys, if you want to check me out on Twitter, I got so many pots boiling, so many plates spinning. I don't post much, but you know what? I am monitoring it if you message me there. And if you want into my Discord, the link's there, and it's also right here in that comment that Joe posted. I appreciate you guys. All right, we should be watching silver and gold according to talk. No spoilers. Let me see if you are bullish or bearish, because I have a bullish bias, even if I shouldn't. That's the thing. I think that they're going to revert higher eventually, even if they take quite a beating first. And they did. Trust me, they did. I have not sold any silver yet. I'm still green on it, though. Definitely should have. That was a mistake. But here we are. It's a longer term position for me anyway. And we got to see, this is an hourly chart. Is this a descending flag? Is this is this a descending base here that we're breaking out of? Let's look a little bit closer. Meanwhile, SPY is just pushing beautifully, nice and constructive. But I want to see what's up with our silver cousin. So here's a nice base attempt here too. Another flag, another multiple wicks here. This is where you can start looking if you guys want. This 9 moving average here. See, it's respecting 2 wicks in a row. So put your buy in right around 74.18, 74.20 or so. In a minute or two, that moving average will catch up. It'll probably wick down, get you in. And then likely we, at the very least, test these multiple wicks right here. I think that structure looks good for a test of the 50%. So we draw our fib. Yeah, 50%. So there's a little 50-cent scalp on the table here. If this does play out, we will see. If you are in this, you want to see these moving averages hold around the 50% of this candle. So we'll keep an eye. For me, I would be getting filled, I said on the 20, 74.20. Did we get there? Yeah, we did get in that 74.20 on this imaginary trade, not actually taking it. Like I said, you got Sleepy Steve today, so we're just doing analysis. Excuse me. All right, so like we were expecting, a little bit of a wick down, and we want to see it resolve up. That'll happen in 42 seconds. So we got a little bit of time to watch that silver 5-minute candle. Okay. Meanwhile, SPY just chugging away. Love to see it. And still in here. So if you guys did get in off this 9-minute, or maybe you missed it, and maybe you missed this one too. Maybe you got in on the 21. Maybe you got in on this reclaim here. There were times, right? There were chances based on the rules that we were talking about to catch this move. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to mess around with this indicator. We'll have to talk about it more in a bit. Definitely gonna poke around in that later. NVIDIA green, good. That's the choice. That's the choice I made for Market Madness, guys. Did you tune in for Market Madness? I almost typed Market Madness in my ticker here. Market Madness, guys, we are doing a special competition. Check it out on our Trade the Pool website. It's got a really cool, obviously basketball theme there. We all got our teams that we're coaching. We constructed a team out of, for example, a mega cap stock, a mid cap stock, a small cap stock, a penny stock, and these kind of create these teams, and you can bet on the teams and possibly win prizes. I shouldn't say bet on, you can choose a team and win prizes, or you can also create your own team. So it's really fun. It's kind of a combination between like a fantasy sports kind of setup here and obviously the trading that we all know and love. So we are entering our trades that we decided that we picked. We did like a round robin draft today. It was a whole bunch of fun. You can also check out that VOD on our YouTube channel. I'm sure we'll put that up. It was on the live stream this morning. And yeah, great stuff there. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. And we're going to be keeping that competition going all month long. So be sure to tune in and see which of the coaches here is number one. I had to make some audibles on the fly. Some of the other good traders that I'm up against here stole my picks before I could pick them. So we did the best we could. We're going to be talking about those picks more over the coming weeks, and we're going to be tracking them so you guys can either make fun of me as I fail or cheer me on as I crush my coworkers. Either way, be here for the ride. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you can join too. So check out that tradethepool.com for the link there. And Joe, if you do have a second, dropping that link for them might be great. Meanwhile, silver, we got in here, hypothetically, of course. We're still long silver. I'm gonna give the call out. I'm gonna give the bat signal in my room. I say I like silver. Let's buy a little more silver in the paid room there. All right, I think it's looking great for an intraday trade. And if you take it for an addition to your swing play, just to be safe, put a stop under the low a day until the close. If it really washes out, you'd rather get tagged for a small stop than have, size on that's going to just weigh your position down, get your good cost basis down or up to something ugly and then drag you. So we don't want that, but we do want to put on exposure if we think that it's a viable dip. To me, this looks constructive. I wonder if Talk was saying, hey, Steve, look at silver. We should short this. I wonder if I'm about to get slaughtered. I don't think so, though, but we'll find out. Probably tomorrow, though, because we only got 2 minutes left, guys. This day flew. Hope you've been having fun. I have. It's been a fun day despite the blood. You gotta keep the spirits up, even if the long-term port maybe isn't having the best time. That's why it's the long-term port, right, guys? Oh no, top wick on silver. We'll see if this plays out bullishly or bearishly into the close. But we had some big ol'. Actually, not much action on the mock buy there. On NVIDIA, looking like a mock buy, pushing up off of that. SPY, let's see where we're going to close at. 1 minute away. And oh man, closing at the high from the low there. The high from the low. Does that make sense? All right, there is the little bit of downward pressure right into the bell here. We have it in 20 seconds coming up. So make sure you're out of those positions, guys. But look at the work that bulls did. They made quite a run here, but what they didn't do is make a higher high. So don't get trapped. Don't assume anything. Despite me thinking this is probably going to try to resolve higher, it hasn't yet. Hasn't broken this yet. We are still at the 62 fib of the intraday range. So if bears wanted to be terrible and ruin the parade, this would be the area where they would step back in. So keep an eye on the back tests here at 680 to 680.50. That represents our band of support. There was resistance. There was support. So when a level goes back and forth like that, reclaims multiple times, you got to keep watching how it reacts and see if the character changes on the interaction with that level, guys. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. I've had some fun here. Hope you had a good time. We will be back at it. What is it? It's okay, we will be back at it next week with all of the regular programming here. I will be doing a webinar tomorrow, so that's going to be fun. Check in tomorrow at 40 minutes after the bell. We are going to be doing a weekly roundup, talking about all my trades, talking about what I'm looking for next week, and anything else you guys want. So be there or be square. Thank you, Nomi Sunrider. Thank you, Michael. Good to see you, brother. Thank you, Talk. Thank you, everybody else who's been here. As always, thank you, Joe. And we will be back at it next time. Have a great day, guys. Peace.